Welcome back to our Lost Tribes series, Part 3D, as this is a continuation. Let's jump right back into the Southern Kingdom migration at the time of Babylon's conquest. Who went and who stayed? Who returned? Where did they go? Let's get to it. Fast forward to Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 1. Notice how proficient Scripture is. There is so much on this topic right there under our noses, yet you will hear these made-up strange doctrines in these regards, regardless. Let's restore the word, shall we? The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the Jews, now again, that word is Yahudim in Hebrew, never Jews, can't even be rendered. The word is fraud. It can't be rendered in ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, nor Latin, nor even the other languages that the Bible came through. Old French, Old German, Old English, neither had a J, period. It never works. Again, watch origin of the word Jew. Which dwell in the land of Egypt. So he's talking about those that tried to escape. They didn't, but they tried to, into Egypt. Which dwell at, and he even gives us definitive, Migdol, and at Taphanes, and at Noph, and in the country of Patros, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, Ye have seen all the evil that I brought upon Jerusalem, and upon all the cities of Judah, Yehudah, and behold, this day they are a desolation. Okay, so it was desolate at this point. Got that? Jerusalem, desolate. And that's exactly what prophecy said it would be. And no man dwelleth therein. Stop. What? Things have progressed, folks. The first captives took many, but left the poor to farm. Those poor left, went into Egypt with others, and that's where we are. So they're gone. Everyone's gone at that point. There's no one, not one, no man dwelleth in Jerusalem. Period. Done. The end. So understand that. No Hebrew was left in Yehudah, period. None. They were either taken captive to Babylon or they chose to disobey and go into Egypt. There is no other group. There's nobody else to consider. And in Egypt, they'll still be captives. Again, likely even worse. There are no other options. Scholars love to fill in gaps like this that just plain don't exist. The Bible's very clear. There is no gap. So they just can't read. Skipping to verse 7, Therefore now, thus saith Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. Wherefore commit ye this great evil against your souls? Get that? Who are they harming? Themselves, their own souls. Get that? To cut off from you man and woman, child and suckling, out of Yehudah, Judah, to leave you none to remain. Got that? None left in Yehudah, Judah, Judaea, Yehudah. None, nada, not one, period. Verse 12, And I will take the remnant of Yehudah, Judah, that have set their faces to go into the land of Egypt to sojourn there, and they shall all be consumed. Wow, ouch. All shall be consumed. Man. And fall in the land of Egypt. Do they fall running into Ethiopia or the slave coast? Nope. No, they're going to fall in Egypt. See, that never happened. There were no further migrations, period. And they still fall, regardless. So even if somehow someone did, doesn't matter, they're going to fall anyway. Yahuwah knows every single one of them. He knows the numbers of the hairs on their head, so he knows where they are. There's no hiding from him. That migration into the, especially the west coast and beyond Ethiopian River, that happens later, again, in the 1st century. Not now, not at this point. That's after Yahusha's ascension. So, they shall even be consumed by the sword and by the famine. They shall die. from the least even unto the greatest. That's everybody, pretty much. Again, it will give a caveat. There will be some who will survive, but it will be few, and they will do what? They will return to Jerusalem afterwards. That's what they'll do. By the sword and the famine, by the famine, and they shall be an execration and an astonishment and a curse and a reproach. We saw that before. It's pretty clear. They're not building a temple in Egypt. Not happening. I mean, they would not even try. You got to be kidding. And furthermore, they are captives even in Egypt. So their doom is foretold. There is nothing positive to see from this group. There is nothing to glean out of Egyptian history during this period about the lost tribes, except for they were being decimated there. That's what happened there. And still in 44, verse 27, behold, I will watch over them for evil and not for good. Ouch. In other words, he'll allow evil to prevail in their lives. They did it, though, not him. He has no choice. If he's a just Elohim, he has to. And all the men of Judah, that are in the land of Egypt shall be consumed by the sword and by the famine. How many times does he need to say it here before scholars actually understand the message? All the men. Now notice the men, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean all the women and children necessarily. Agreed. Some will say that, and that's true. But wow. Until there be an end of them, yet a small number. Now, see, the Bible, a lot of times is so brilliant, it gives these outs and these qualifiers that are right there in Scripture, and yet many miss it. Yet a small number that escape the sword shall return out of the land of Egypt into the land of Judah. Got that? So they'll go back home. They're not going to go to Ethiopia. They're not going to go further into Africa. And there's no need. They want to go home. They're going to want to go. So now Yahuwah qualifies. A small number will survive. And what do? Well, they do not migrate further into Africa, into somewhere else in Europe, Asia, nowhere. They go back to Yahudia. That's where they go. They will not stay in Egypt. Period. None. Not one. Got that? The numbers are pretty clear here. They'll return, all of them. There is no other option and no other migration. Now, the same will hold true for those who return from Babylon. All will return, which begs the question, why is Esther and Mordecai, why are they there after the final migration of the lost tribes of Ezra, which occurred earlier that same year that Esther's entering the palace? She can't be. She wouldn't be there. It is a false story. And all the remnant of Judah, that are gone into the land of Egypt so to sojourn there, shall know whose words shall stand, mine or theirs. Whoa. Talk about a challenge. His word will always stand. Man's will not. Not against his. By the way, if you just jumped into the middle of our Lost Tribes series here, you really better go back and watch from the beginning, or you're going to miss a lot of context, and maybe this won't even make sense. Who knows? Jeremiah 45:4. Thus shalt thou say unto him, Yahuwah saith thus, Behold, that which I have built will I break down, and that which I have planted I will pluck up, even this whole land. And seeketh thou great things for thyself? Seek them not, for behold, I will bring evil upon all flesh, saith Yahuwah. But thy life will I give unto thee for a prey in all places whither thou goest. Okay, so he's covered everything here. Anybody that wants to say, oh, well, some escaped to Ethiopia or the West Coast, no, they're dead. They're dead. It's done. There's nothing to discuss here. They don't, and if somehow that even happened, and it didn't according to Scripture, they still have to return to Yehuda, because that's what it says. All places, none escape his wrath, period. The end. Now in Jeremiah 48 and 49, both chapters, read them both, read the full chapters. We can't do that on a YouTube channel, but I'm just going to, real quick, Yahuwah then goes on to rebuke the Philistines, Tyre, Heshbon, Edom, and all of Esau, Dedan, Moab, Ammon, the Ammonites, Damascus, Kedar, which is Saudi Arabia, Hazar, Elam, which is all the way over to, Elam is all the way over in southern Iran, southwestern Iran. What is he doing here? Well, he's cleansing the land. Why? Well, we'll get there too. There is a good reason why. He did not just drive Israel out of the land, understand that, but also other tribes too. Wow. Amazing. Jeremiah 50, verse 17. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions, that's Babylon, really has always been known as lions symbolically, as does Assyria. You can see them even pictured on the walls of the entrance, the gates to Assyria. And now the full story. Have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria hath devoured him. That's the northern 10 tribes of Israel, of Samaria. And last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones. So Judea, and Judah, Benjamin, some of Levi, that's what we're talking about. Those are the 3 tribes associated. Again, not all of Levi. Levi split between all of the 12 tribes. But the only ones left in the land after Assyria's conquest. We read that in the beginning of the last video, right? So that's all that's left. And then of these 3 tribes, again, Levi partial, this is what we have happening. Therefore, thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon. Okay, so he's going to punish them too, and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria. Ah, yes, see, Yahuwah allowed the conquest to take place. But, let's be clear, he also punishes the evil of Assyria and Babylon, just as he will punish nations like the British Empire, the U.S., and every other conquering power that has ever existed. Sorry, but that's fact. It is not his way. He is not a conqueror, and he hates it. It is a Nephilim doctrine and way to operate, not his ways, nor ways of his people. Yes, Israel wiped out tribes from the land, but understand first, the land was theirs, and those were there illegally since the days of Shem, when it was promised to Shem, who promised it to Arphaxad. But it was stolen by Canaan from Ham illegally, and they shouldn't have been there, period. And they knew it. They well knew it. His father and brothers pronounced a curse on him for doing that, so he well knew. But those tribes specifically all had Nephilim among them. He was wiping out Nephilim, not necessarily humans, though they were involved too, because they were among them. That's their problem. Almost done here, just a couple more. Verse 19 and 20. And I will bring Israel again to his habitation. This is his promise. And he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. Wait, this is a promise to who? To the northern kingdom, who will return. But when? In the very last days, and not until the last days, as we have well covered. Again, especially 2nd Esdras says that, but so does Ezekiel 39 and other places. They are not in Israel now, and modern Israel is called spiritual Sodom and Egypt in Revelation 11. It is the seat of the harlot of Babylon in Revelation, and we prove that out in our video, Babylon the Great, and will be from where the beast rules, according to Revelation. So modern Israel is an abomination. His lost tribes do not return under the beast's control. That's stupid. That's not Scripture. There's no prophecy that ever says that, but says the opposite. They return in peace and at the very end. They do so after Gog of Magog's forces are destroyed in the very end. That's what Ezekiel 39 says, for one. In those days and in that time, saith Yahuwah, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. Now, you know that only happens after the day of judgment, because all of the wicked will be consumed, and all that will be left are the righteous. And the sins of Yehuda, Judah, and they shall not be found. So no sin will be found. We know when that period is. It cannot be before the day of judgment, period. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. Wait a minute. That did not happen yet. See, none of this has happened yet. So modern Israel is the wrong tribe, even in claim, which demonstrates how illiterate they are of Scripture. Ephraim is the one who received the birthright. Therefore, Ephraim should have been the returning tribe to Israel, first and foremost, leading the charge. And yet they claim to be Judah. They're liars. They're the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Yahudim and are not, but do lie. Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. Yahusha nailed them down. This happens in the end times. Verse 34, their Redeemer is strong. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. Yes, he shall thoroughly plead their case, that he may give rest to the land. Sabbath. It's all about Sabbath, folks. And disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So he promised to them even before the return ever happened, even as they're being taken into captivity, he promises that he's going to remove Babylon from that land and allow them to return. Yahuwah tells Yehudia they'll be there, and Babylon will be removed. Now that happened. This begins to happen after 70 years of captivity, and there's a reason for that timeline. Again, it has to do with the Sabbath. But let's go to verse 40. As Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Yahuwah, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Are you getting that? See, this is his rule. Basically, I mean, when he warned in Deuteronomy and other places to the lost tribes, before they were lost, back in those days, he told them, when he gave them the law, and they entered covenant, he gave them a very full description of what would happen if they break covenant with him. And this is exactly what happened. This is why all had to be removed from the land. All of the northern kingdom was removed, and none returned. All of the southern kingdom was removed, but they were allowed to return after 70 years. So, but here he says, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, Sodom and Gomorrah to this day, no one lives there. It's on the bottom of the Dead Sea, for one. Watch our videos on Sodom in Answers and Jubilees. We have a couple there. How many Hebrews will remain in Yehudia during this time of captivity? None, not one. How many times do we have to see that before scholars start to understand it? Well, probably many, many, many more, because it doesn't fit their agenda. Why does this matter? Why were the exiled tribes removed from their land? Why? Well, let's look at Leviticus 26:34. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate. That's why it had to be desolate. And ye be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. Not only did Yahuwah warn this would happen, he already knew it would happen. This is prophecy of what would indeed occur. The reason the southern kingdom had to be removed, all of them, every single one, as well as the northern in its time, well, They did not keep Yahuwah's Sabbath of the land, allowing it to rest every 7 years. This is not the weekly Sabbath. This is the 7th year Sabbath, allowing the land to rest. That matters. It mattered to him then. It matters to him even today. Just as they failed to allow it to rest, the land will be given 10 Sabbaths of years. And that's 70 years, because it's every 7th year, to rest. Does his way matter to him? Indeed, it always has, and it always will. As we math this out in Answers in 2nd Esdras, parts 9 through 11, check that out, we find we are actually in a Sabbath year, the 7th year Sabbath of the land, where the land is to rest. Today, this year, right now, we're in the middle of it. It started back in March, and it continues until next March. That's something we encourage everyone to look into further. Let's look at 2 Chronicles 36:21. To fulfill the word of Yahuwah by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. As long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath, to fulfill 70 years. Wow. Yahuwah saw to it that his land saw her Sabbaths, whether the people liked it or not. They have no say. As Scripture has well established, the lost tribes are scattered among the nations, and this is certainly true of the southern kingdom, who migrated into Africa beyond the river Euphrates, not in the time that we just covered, no, but in the days of the 1st century, indeed, after Messiah's ascension. According to Zephaniah and Isaiah, this happened when, though? Not until after Yahushua came, died, resurrected, and ascended. Until then, all were taken captive, either in Babylon or Egypt, going back to that time period, and all returned to Judea. There are no other migrations to consider. There are no other side stories. There is nothing. All were taken, all returned. In the case of the northern tribes, all were taken, none returned. Those are the stories. No stories of an adventurous escape. Doesn't exist. This is Yahuwah. And what he does is final, especially when he tells us so directly. If only scholars and rabbis could read. Eventually, though, they migrate to beyond the river of Ethiopia or the Nile, and they do make it to the slave coast even. They were targeted there by the colonialists and scattered from their homeland of West Africa, known as the Slave Coast, which is the exact land inherited by Canaan. Some of these were mixed bloodlines of Ham from Canaanites in the land and Israel, so they had this right even to the land, because that was Canaan's inheritance from old. The Muslims also joined in enslaving millions as well. Let's not forget that. Many do. Many aren't even aware. But watch Part 3A for great detail, including maps documenting this migration. Bear in mind, when I say Muslims, they weren't actually called Muslims at that point, but it's the same people group. This is almost as scattered as one can get, except the northern tribes. Even more scattered, actually. Then we have the Kurds of Kurdistan stayed in Assyria. Not all Kurds, which is a mixed group, by the way, and obviously only a portion of them would fit that of the Filipino and the African migration, which is not the standard African. You can't just put up 3 photos of the 3 and expect that somehow can be a remote logical comparison. No, it's just stupid is all it is. It's just ridicule, stupid ridicule. We know someone took a Jew from Kurdistan, tried to compare it to a Filipino, and then they used a regular African who is not a lost tribe in order to ridicule this. Just illiterate completely. Demon-possessed blogger, just one of the dumbest out there. These are the 3 areas, according to Scripture, in which the lost tribes migrated and shall return from. Again, watch the series. We prove it. And that's it. There are no more. Period. And that's the problem. See, the Bible doesn't leave all of this gray area. the rabbis try to operate in. They cannot. It's not there. There is no stretching, for instance, the tribe of Dan, such as the founder of the Sefer Bible, claiming in illiterate rabbi babble, basically. He's just following the Pharisees. He's not even thinking, obviously. Clearly, he can't think in this regard. They claim the tribe of Dan is the tribe to follow for all lost tribes, yet Revelation doesn't even mention Dan, because likely Dan has been completely wiped off the face of the earth at this point. He rejected his land of inheritance and was the one who introduced idol worship in Israel. So that's why Revelation doesn't even mention Dan. So what a stupid measure to try to use, and then to do so because it's DN. I mean, this is ridiculous. He's not there in the end times, so why would you follow him? He lost his inheritance. Talk about illiterate, but then they take the Danube River in Europe and claim that must be the location of the lost tribes, and that's their whole case. What an utterly ignorant case that doesn't even know history, because the Danube is not named for the tribe of Dan. That is ridiculous. It is named for the Nephilim fairy tribe, the Tuatha Danann. Huh, stupid. Rabbis are such idiots sometimes, and the Messianics who follow them are merely inserting Pharisee leaven, now expanded into the New Testament, as well as the Old. Isn't that just wonderful? No, thank you. They will never learn anything but how to become a Jew, an illiterate term, not even Hebrew, that refers to one of the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Yahudim, that's the real word, and are not, but do lie. Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. Messiah really pinned them down. We follow them in this series. Keep watching. Now, we have filled that gap of history for the southern kingdom. And many have tried to exploit, claiming the northern kingdom migrated into the south, which is false, never happened. All were taken and none returned. Then they try to claim some of the southern kingdom who went into Egypt, migrated further into Africa back then. Nope, that is false, as those who went into Africa, according to Scripture, either died or returned, which was few. All of them returned who were left, that's it. Otherwise they died, there is no one else. All were captive, as even those in Egypt were still conquered by Babylon, just as Yahuwah said would happen. He warned them they would die there in Egypt, and most did. No one migrated further. All returned to Judea, and that proves the story of Esther again, in which she entered the palace after the final migration of the lost tribes with Ezra from the southern kingdom back to Judea, as a complete lie. It doesn't even have its timeline down right, and that's pretty bad. Esther and Mordecai cannot be in Persia at that time, not if they were true Hebrews. Otherwise, they're liars, and they are liars. It's a story made up, an occult lie that is really fashioned after the story of Ishtar, however you want to pronounce it. That's Esther, same character. That's the ancient goddess. Watch Testing the Book of Esther. We prove that out. That is why it was not found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and yes, we deal with the supposed stretched proto-Esther fragments, which are actually first Esdras, written by Ezra the prophet, not Esther, another fraud from idiots who manage the Dead Sea Scrolls narrative, who can't even read and figure out that Essenes never lived there, even with the archaeology called the Essene Find, 25 miles south in Ein Gedi. They can't figure that out. That's pretty stupid. Not a shred of Essene archaeology in Qumran. Not a single mention of Essenes in any local writing there. But they called themselves the exiled temple priests, whom the Pharisees, modern Jews, exiled from the temple, usurping the priesthood illegally, and they continue to do so. This is why Yahusha launched his ministry in Qumran, where John the Baptist lived and operated as a son of Zadok of the temple priest leadership. We proved that out. Watch, read, and you'll see. It is incredible that we have ever Listen to these illiterate idiots who can't even read, and they call themselves scholars. Watch our original canon series or read our introduction of either the Book of Jubilees, the Torah calendar, 2nd Esdras, the hidden book of prophecy, or 1st Enoch, the oldest book in history. We prove that there, and it is not difficult, actually. Yahuwah is not an impotent Elohim. When he says all were taken in the northern kingdom, he means all. When he says none returned, he means none. And we all well know they were replaced by the very faction which today is called Judaism in Samaria. Foreigners who attacked Israel and the temple. The synagogue of Satan, according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, as well as Messiah. The sons of darkness, they call them, the sons of Belial, Satan, etc. So no, nothing good to say about Pharisees and Hasmoneans in either the words of Messiah nor the words of the temple priests who were exiled by them. We tracked them too in the next videos in this series. Watch them. For those trying to claim a replica or similar of the temple was built in Egypt, some say Elephantine, they're liars. That's not true. There's absolutely zero history to support that. Jeremiah was warned they were not even supposed to be there, whether alone build a temple. And Babylon, by the way, would not have allowed it. They destroyed the temple. Hello? Can they think at all? Amazing. There's no adequate record of such. It's made up, illiterate rabbi ramblings. They did not publish a Bible either, as we have the Bible of the temple priest found in archaeology in Qumran, and that's the one to follow. Egypt libraries include occult writings like the Gnostic Gospels as well, and are no match to the temple library. Those were Essenes, not temple priests, therapeutai. In fact, are Essenes, same thing. And the Qumran library was not theirs. That was the one of the temple priests. That was the library that came from the temple when they were exiled. It is time to restore this because without the appropriate migration patterns, one will never understand history nor prophecy, and they most especially are unqualified to dabble in DNA interpretation, no matter how many initials they have behind their name. The more initials, the dumber they are most of the time, unfortunately. This is simple and should have been understood long before now. Indeed, even the Black Hebrew movement has also become a movement of racism and totally screws up most of this narrative. Now, though there is some basis for their initial claim, which we proved in Part 3a, they didn't, however, prove any of their assertions. We proved basis only, but then they take it in directions which are just nonsense. Many within that movement try to even move Israel, Rome, Assyria, Babylon, and all things into Africa in the most illiterate associations we have ever seen. We can all see through this. We hope this has served to fill in this one gap we have not covered in this Lost Tribes narrative. We have over 400 videos on this channel, one for every day of the year now, many just as profound with some 50 or so in Tagalog for Filipinos, and now 6 in Spanish to start. We also have been setting up subtitles for 20-plus languages for most of our videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications of new uploads. Join our email list as YouTube fails to notify often, and we will notify you ourselves at thegodculture.com. Just fill in the pop-up there. We now have alternative platforms for videos on Rumble, Odyssey, and Utreon, and our podcast is also available for most of our videos as well. All links in the description box. Friend us on Facebook at The God Culture, _space original. If you prefer an alternative to Facebook, we now have Parler, link below. We have 6 books published internationally, being read in over 100 countries. With our new release now available, the first book of Enoch, the oldest book in history, and we prove it. Read the introduction for yourself. We also have now launched Ophir Philippines Coffee Table book in the U.S., Canada, UK, and many overseas markets on Amazon. And it is available in hardcover or softcover there for a lower price point. Additionally, we launched the Book of Jubilees, the Torah calendar, with color maps and interior, as many have requested overseas. And we have the Book of First Enoch in the same formats, also in black and white for both. We already have the color maps in the Philippines for the Book of Jubilees, but that's available in hardcover or softcover on Amazon, as well as in black and white. All books, including Solomon's Treasure, are now free in ebook. Yes, folks, our content is free. Just go to ophirinstitute.com for all the links for your area, for all of our books. More coming soon. Thank you for watching. Now, always remember, prove all things for yourself. Yah bless to everyone.